Welcome to the President's Podcast. I'm Dr. Tekemia Dorsey, President of the Randallstown NAACP Branch 7032B. This podcast is where truth meets leadership, where the fight for justice meets everyday voices, and where we turn challenges into opportunities for change. Today, in my very first podcast, we're talking about leadership in times of crisis, specifically leadership in the government shutdown. Shutdowns don't just happen in Washington, D.C. They ripple into our communities, impacting workers, small businesses, students, and families who live from paycheck to paycheck. But in the face of this, real leadership matters more than ever. Let's start by looking at the impact of this shutdown has in our communities. Because before we talk about leadership, we need to understand the people it affects the most. Let's start with the basics. What happens during a government shutdown? Federal workers are furloughed and forced to work without pay. Community programs from Head Start to housing assistance slow down and stop altogether. Small businesses that rely on government contracts and lending and local spending feel the pinch. None of these things so far are good for the economy, good for the people, or good for our culture. And lastly, families, especially in communities of color, are left making impossible decisions between paying rent, buying groceries, and covering medical bills. This isn't abstract. It is real, everyone. It is literally what we are living in today's time. To be honest with you, I never thought that I would see me live through this type of impact in our community. I thought COVID was something, but this literally rocks the boat. Matter of fact, it simply takes the foundation from the boat and just destroys it. Imagine being a single mother working for a federal agency, and suddenly you don't know when your next paycheck is coming. Imagine being a senior waiting for services that are delayed. Leadership should protect people from this kind of uncertainty, not create it. And so here's the big question. When everything around us slows down or shuts down, what should leadership look like? Let's talk about that. Wait, did you hear me? When everything around us slows down and shuts down, what should leadership look like? Let's talk about that. Leadership during a government shutdown isn't about pointing fingers. You're hearing it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. I don't even know where the voice of the independent stands, but it's a humanity problem. All of us are responsible, and all of us remain the solution. It's about responsibility, accountability, and simply results. Great leaders do three things in times of crisis. Communicate clearly and honestly. People need facts, not spin. At first, I was uncertain what the government shutdown was about. Now, in previous administrations, this is about the time of the year where we know a government shutdown could happen. But I don't think in the last few presidents we've had a government shutdown. And if we do, definitely not this long. Like we're literally like on day 2 or 3 right now. And that's a really long time in the face of everything halting. So real leaders and great leaders, what they do in times of crisis is help you understand what's happening. I happened to look at a piece I think this morning or last night, to really understand what caused the breakdown or the shutdown. We keep hearing it's a leftist thing, it's a rightist thing, but the bottom line is it is the leadership within our country's problem. The Republicans want to pull back health care for almost 2.5 million, I believe, people in the world, which would not only pull back health coverage where people aren't able to get coverage right now because because we're limited on if the government reopens and the Democrats agree to it, then healthcare would be lost for 2.5 million. In addition to that, or the healthcare premiums will skyrocket. People cannot afford this. We couldn't afford it as is, and we definitely can't afford it if the Democrats agree. But my question is to humanity: how could you bring up such a travesty in legislation that you know is going to have negative ripple effects? Let me pause. So great leaders do these things. Communicate clearly and honestly. People need facts, not spin. So granted, we're in a shutdown. The Republicans want the Democrats, from my understanding, and I'm going to ask you to do some fact checking. Because to me, again, I'm sharing what I heard. So don't take it for the gospel. Go find out on yourself, right? If it is in fact truth, if the Republicans are asking the Democrats to sign off to pass this bill that would reopen the government, is what we need, but would be at the cost of millions of people losing their health care and or jumping premiums that people cannot already afford, then the government needs to say shut down. They need to go back to the drawing board, and they simply need to come up with something that is not going to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Right? The second thing that a great leader does in time of crisis is that people prioritize people over politics. Leadership is about protecting, not posturing. The people right now are not protected with the government being shut down. We're not being protected if healthcare is withdrawn and premiums pop up. That's not about the people. That is about politics. And to be honest, we have an election, midterm elections, a year from now. People are signing up that are fed up, who want to make a change, and we have an opportunity to vote out those people, legislators, politicians, senators, congressmen, whomever, that supported this nonsense. Remember, it's the power of the people. You have the opportunity to keep people first by your vote in mid-election, and then again in 3 years and 3 months. So prioritize people over politics. Leadership is about protecting, not posturing. And then last but not least, great leaders mobilize resources and community strength. Even when system fails, leaders rally others to step up. And we need that right now. We need you to do that right now. Think about leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, or modern day advocates like you and me, right? Their leadership, our leadership, wasn't convenient and it wasn't easy, but it was and remained necessary. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. I'm not talking about a title with no impact. I'm not talking about a title with no vision or action. I'm not talking about people that sit behind a desk and all they do, go home at 5 o'clock and it's not my problem. That's management. I'm talking about leaders that lead daily, every day, whether they have a title or not. Poor leadership, on the other hand, looks like silence when communities are suffering. It looks like choosing political gains over human lives. I happen to look at a Instagram or maybe TikTok snippet where I can't think of the delegate's name or the senator's name that was asking for a response from his colleague. And what I learned from watching these clips is that, and just like in my sorority and other organizations, when you have a question, you address the president or the chair, and then the chair or the president then allows that person who is best fit or the question is targeted towards to answer the question. So this senator, and I know his name began with a J, and I think names end with an R, kept asking a colleague from across the aisle. He was like, I know you're going to oppose the bill, so can you just tell me? Dead silence. So the chair reminded the senator, addressed a question to me. So he did just that. He addressed the question to the chair and asked the chair to ask the colleague, which was not of his party, for a response. Dead silence. That is an example of poor leadership. Poor leadership is not silent. All the representative was asking was their viewpoint on how they were going to vote. And what the senator who was probing for an answer made known is that people will know your vote because it's part of public record. Like, when did political gains prioritize humanity? I'm confused, right? I digress. So if true leadership is about lifting people during hardship, the next question is, what do we, you and I, as everyday citizens and community members, do when leadership fails us? What do we do? And we're not just talking leadership failing us at the highest level. We're also talking about leadership that fails us at the local level. Case in point, and this is a fact, and you can research it. In my county, a brand new library just had its grand opening on October 1st. State of the art. Absolutely beautiful. The heart of the West Side. On the east side of the county, Middle River, Prairie Hall, Dundalk, Essex, Parkville, a new library has been in discussion for a really long time. Our current county executive canceled it. She pulled the rug. People on the east side of our county is livid, especially in the time that we're living in. Where's the equity? Where's the equality? Where's the fight? Where's the civil rights? How do we justify that in a county of 900,000 people, a local resource such as a library that is more than about books is allowed on one side of the county and denied on the opposite side of the county? Make it make sense, y'all. So if true leadership is about lifting people during hardship, what are we missing in our local leaders locally? So we're not only having problems on the higher levels, federal government, state level, we having problems on the local level. So what do we do when leadership fails us? Let's explore how communities should respond, because this government shutdown is not okay. We don't know how long it's going to last, what else will be impacted. And in addition to the government shutdown, we got ICE raids, right? And what's crazy about this, and I got to pause here for a second as we talk about what do we as everyday citizens and community members do when leadership fail us. The halftime act was just announced yesterday. Bad Bunny. To be honest with you, I don't know who Bad Bunny is, but obviously he is a person with fluent background in Spanish, or I know he speaks it. Man, you would think Bad Bunny was like Martin Luther King being reenacted, because now all of a sudden people, the senators, politicians from the right side, Republicans, from what I've seen, are protesting Bad Bunny to be the halftime performer at a Super Bowl that is 4 months from now, 120 days at best. But the government is shut down, and you're talking about worried about a halftime show performer? Are you kidding me? We got to do better. So not only are we fighting ICE raids, picking up people, presidents of colleges, mayors, students, hardworking individuals that help our country be free. Now we have a government shutdown where federal workers are laid off, resources are being pulled back, people are seeing their democracy being pulled from them every day, local leaders choosing where libraries are able to be supported. What the crap is going on? That's why communities must get involved. That's why we need you to get involved. Leadership, it is not time for stalemate. You need to get up off your bum because your eyes were open this morning, which means that your job isn't done, and get involved. And so this is how, let's explore how communities respond. Here's the good news. Leadership isn't just for elected officials. We are all leaders. Let me drop that for a second. If you were listening to this podcast, watching it, it was shared to you, that means you're alive. God, Allah, whomever you believe in beyond the spiritual natural, opened your eyes this morning. That means your job isn't done. Trust me, somebody somewhere that didn't wake up this morning would love to switch with you to have another day, another hour, another minute, another second to make a difference. We are all leaders. A teacher who finds creative ways to keep students engaged without resources. Leader. A community organizer who rallied neighbors to check in on seniors. Leader. A single mom who's taking care of her kids on her own. Leader. A grandmom who has raised her children and now raising her grandchildren. Leader. Parents teaching resilience at home. Leadership. If you notice, none of this had to do with an elected official. You are an elected official because God woke you up this morning. Leadership is influence. Leadership is responsibility. Leadership is action. Leadership is vision. Leadership is impact. When systems go down, communities rise up. Oh my God, I'm going to make that a t-shirt. You heard it first on the President's podcast with President Dr. Tekemia Dorsey. When systems shut down, communities rise up. Churches, nonprofits, and grassroots groups often step in to fill the gaps. But guess what? So does individuals that's not a part of a church, that's not a part of a nonprofit. Matter of fact, you could be heading a for-profit. You could be an entrepreneur or serialpreneur. You could not even know what a grassroots group is, but you just pull some groups together with some friends to help fill the gaps, because that's what our community needs right now. You. This is where organizations like the NAACP comes in, mobilizing, advocating, and pushing for systemic change. And let me say this. Hope is not naive. Hope is fuel. That's why I launched the President's Podcast. I know my greatest asset in life, other than my brain, is my voice. I am a natural at speaking. And this is crazy because I have a new book coming out from, matter of fact, it's out but hasn't been released, From Poverty to Prosperity, a CEO's Guide for Fighting poverty through business, leadership, and innovation. And I happen to be speaking with, and I did it a little different this time because I actually released my manuscript, had people to review it, and then I interviewed them on my From Poverty to Prosperity podcast. And I was sharing with a good friend of mine. We go back almost a decade and a half in a running community. And I said, I'm normally the person that's in the background. Like, I hate the forefront. I love the forefront if I need to. But I am the person, I prefer to stay in the background, get things done, be professional, and I'll step to the forefront if I have to. But in this day and age, God is like, Tekemia, what are you doing? Who are you impacting? You being silent and only being selective with your voice is not helping my kingdom. I digress. I was not obedient. So I was like, okay, when I think of my branch and I think of my community and I think of our struggles and I think of our platform and our potential and everything that we have going forward, a solid branch, Randallstown, can't talk for nobody else. I know we're small in number, but mighty in impact. Shout out to my executive board of Randallstown NAACP 7032B. We're mighty, but it's still gaps. I had to think, what can I do that's not going to spread me too thin, that's going to be able to spread the gospel, the words, and give valid, valuable solutions, motivate, inspire, and encourage others. And I was like, listen, I just got to use my God-given talents, my voice. So here is, on top of my other podcasts, the President's podcast, because people are struggling today. They're struggling more than ever, and they're uncertain where to go, where to turn. And to be honest with you, I happened to walk in a bank a few months ago, and I was making a deposit for our branch. We was excited because we was hosting our first gala, first of many of a lot of things since then. And a person was like, oh, you guys are still around? I couldn't even be mad at her. You want to know why? Because people don't know that we're still around. Not just the national, but we're local. Local branches on the ground are here doing the good work, fighting the good fight with you, beside you, and on your behalf. So I was like, okay, I need to just do what I do. And so here we are. So the NAACP is an organization that helps to mobilize, advocate, and push for systemic change. We hold politicians accountable, but we need your help. Listen, we cannot do it without you. And let me say once again, hope is not naive. Hope is fuel. I have hope that we too will overcome this. We ran into brick wall COVID. We lost a lot of people, God rest their souls, but we came out of it. I don't know how we got back in this scenario with the current leader, but we're here. There's nothing we can do about it, at least for another 3 years, 2 months, and 26 days, 25 days for him. But we can do something every day God wakes us up. So hope is fueled through us, through you, through me. It's what allows us to keep pressing forward and demanding better, because we deserve better. So we've seen a problem. We've talked about leadership, and we've talked about how communities will rise. The final step is this. What can you do right now to make a difference? For me, I'm using my voice. I am great at talking. I'm a great speaker. I'm a great podcaster. I'm coming from behind the mic as much as I love to. I'm going to make time, not just with this podcast, but also my other podcasts and in other ways that I utilize my voice. And by the way, advocacy can be exercised in 2 ways: voice and writing. So if you're not great in public speaking and utilizing your voice and it doesn't work for you, cool. Write people, write your legislator, write your politician, write your senator, write your local leader. I just stated that the west side of the county, for Baltimore County, just got a brand new library. Beautiful. And we love BC. We love Baltimore County Public Library, by the way. They were one of the recipients of our gala as a community organization back on May 31st. But help me to understand why Middle River does not have a library right now. Make it make sense. Are we living in a lopsided type of system? Absolutely not. The west side is just important as the east side, and the east side is important as the west side, people. Let's make it make sense. So if you want to advocate and if you want to figure out how you get involved with that, write your county executive. Help her to understand and help the fight with David Marks and Delegate Ryan Nowosky and the Randallstown NAACP and all of the people on the east side of the county, because we all need a new library. If the west side can get it, the east side can get it. Right? So as we close in today's conversation, remember this. Leadership is not optional during a crisis. Man, that's another t-shirt. Good thing that I own this podcast. Leadership is not optional during a crisis. It is required. And we're all leaders. Leaders is not founded, based, supported, encouraged, or only by title. It's required. If the government can shut down, then communities can stand up. That for sure is going on a t-shirt. Proceeds go back to Randallstown NAACP and my for-profit. Okay. If the government can shut down, then communities can stand up. Here's how you can take action right now. Join your local NAACP. Your membership strengthens the movement. For us, you go to www.randnaacp.org. Join your local NAACP. We love to have you. For us, www.rand, R as in Robert, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, D as in David, N as in Nancy, AA as in Alkaline, C as in Charlie, P as in Paul.org. Because your membership strengthens your movement. If you're not quite sure where your local branch is, go to www.naacp.net. Put in your zip code, and your local NAACP branches will come up. Not just adults, but also youth. Contact your elected officials. Demand accountability. Well, I don't know where to find my local elected officials. Google elected officials in my district. Google will pull up this website. You put in your zip code, your county councilman, your delegate, your senator, all of those people, your congressman will all pop up, right? Share this episode. Absolutely. Let's spread the joy. Because it's your right and it's your responsibility. Help others understand the power of leadership. And I'll say it again, everyone. We are all leaders. You don't have to have a title to be deemed a leader. But also what we do know is that together we can transform crisis into opportunity, silence into advocacy, and shutdown into action. Man, I'm just dropping all kinds of nuggets today. You know what I mean? Yes. Let me say it again. Together we can transform crisis into opportunity, silence into advocacy, and shutdown. Thank you for tuning into the very first episode of the President's Podcast. I'm Dr. Tekemia Dorsey. By the way, here's a copy of my new book. Don't know if you can see it, From Poverty to Prosperity. It comes out on October 19th, but it comes out in the mediums of Kindle, paperback, and hardback. And stay informed, Stay engaged. Oh, by the way, it's available on Amazon. Because here's the other thing that a government shutdown is looming towards. Poverty is like the elephant in the room, right? And by the way, follow my other podcast, From Poverty to Prosperity. You can find it on YouTube or follow me on Instagram, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. I'm on all those variables. Poverty is a humanity problem. It's not a Black problem. It's just not money. People are ignorant to what it is. But guess what? No matter how fat your bank account is today, just like in the COVID shutdown, poverty is creeping up your pathway. It's coming for you. And only you have the tools, the means, the motive, and the opportunity to flip it. So stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay hopeful, because we're living in dark times, and the times are going to get a lot darker before they end up getting better. So I'm excited. I did it. The First President's podcast is doubt. It's not Memorex. We turned this dream into reality. You're listening. You're motivated. You're inspired. We need vision, impact, action, and impact. That comes from my book, From Poverty to Prosperity. Again, join us. Sign up. Get involved. Understand that you are part of the solution, or you're no better than the problem, that God is here. Until the next podcast, tune in. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Chat with you soon. Have a great day. Appreciate you, and talk to you soon. I'm out.